Frank Misa Grunwald is an 83-year-old American citizen of Czechoslovakian descent. Frank's adult life has been defined by a successful career as a design engineer for General Electric, a loving marriage of 64 years to his wife Barbara, and cherished relationships with the couple's 2 sons and 5 grandchildren. Yet there is more to Frank Grunwald's story. Tales that define a tragic era in our world's history when mankind was literally devastated, and a young boy named Misa learned unimaginable life lessons.
I was only in second grade for 2 or 3 months, because then the Nazi, there was the Nazi invasion in the spring of '39, and soon after that we were kicked out of school. We couldn't, because being of Jewish heritage, we could not attend school, public school, so we were kicked out. So basically my school education ended at the beginning of the second grade.
So you're about 6 or 7 years old.
About 7 then.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand what was going on. I knew that we were occupied by another country. Wasn't really sure why, because I didn't understand the political realm.
So you didn't worry?
I was concerned. I didn't worry, but I was concerned because I saw, I didn't really realize that I was Jewish till the Nazis told me. Because when they came in, they forced us out of school, and then I saw all these notices on the storefronts and public library fronts of the public library and movie houses, Jews not allowed. I was told by my parents that, we are of Jewish heritage, and even though we never practiced Judaism, we never went to the synagogue, I was told that, this is anti-Semitism, and we are being, singled out because we've had a Jewish heritage. And
so they told you flat out what it was. They didn't try to sugarcoat it in
any
way.
No, nothing was sugarcoated.
You go along a street that you've grown up in for 6 years and gone in and out of the stores as you and your mother took you in and out, and all of a sudden there's a sign that says, you can't go in anymore. What does that feel like?
Well, it felt uncomfortable, but it was not tragic for me as a 8-year-old or 7.5-year-old.
Okay.
I still went on with my life. I still
except no school.
There was a period when we had some very informal lessons in private homes, in private apartments mostly, with 4 or 5 other kids, where we had tutors. And that I don't think that lasted very long. I think that kind of fell apart after 4 or 5 months. And then there was no formal schooling.
So what did you do with your time then?
I was doing a lot of artwork and beginning to play the piano. And shortly after, we were thrown out of our apartment. I think that happened in late of 1941. So we left everything behind in our apartment. The piano and the oriental rugs and all the furniture was left behind, and the apartment was taken over by a German military family.
What is your recall? Were you there when they came in? Like, did they just knock on the door and say you to leave now?
Yes, they just rang a doorbell, and
Were you there?
Yes. Rang a doorbell, and a German officer with either his wife or girlfriend came in with a Secret Service, a Czech Secret Service person, and they came in totally unannounced. My mother answered the door. Nobody said, hello, good morning, may we come in and look at your apartment? They just walked in. And because they didn't introduce themselves or say hello, my mother didn't respond. She didn't say hello, come in. She had very strong ethical beliefs. She was not going to cow down to somebody that is intruding. So they they came in, walked through the whole apartment, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, library, and then my father's office. And walked through and then disappeared, went out and left. And about 2 months later, we were evicted.
Like you said, you had to leave behind your family's possessions. What did your mother tell you you could bring?
Basically, we packed our suitcases. A lot of the photographs and a lot of personal stuff was saved through our friends and through our help that we had in the family. My grandparents had a cook. She was a young woman still then. That came to our grandparents' home as an orphan and made her part of the family, literally, when she was 14 years old.
Wow.
And she helped my grandmother in the kitchen and with the daily chores in the apartment. And she kept a lot of our photographs and personal things through the war. She lived till about the age of 84 or 85, and she finally died on the outskirts of Prague.
When you talked about the German and the Czechoslovakian Secret Service coming through your apartment, you walked through that apartment as if you could still see it. Is it that strong a vision in your mind?
Yes, I know the apartment, intimately, because that's where I grew up. So I remember it really well.
Was it a strong memory to you as you were in the concentration camps as home, or did you discard that memory to survive?
No, it was a strong memory. I fantasized about being there when I was in the camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you moved on to a smaller apartment you're sharing, your family sharing?
We moved into
family.
a dark, small, 2-bedroom apartment that belonged to distant relatives of ours. And the woman who was probably in her 50s or 60s, was very ill. She had stomach cancer, and I remember her moaning and groaning. She was in terrible pain most of the time. And we were there for several months, 3 or 4 months at least, maybe 5.
Now, was your father still practicing?
He was practicing in a Jewish hospital in Prague. He was not allowed to practice in his own practice.
Your 2.5, 3 years sharing this apartment. I can't imagine what it felt like. You keep using the word dark.
It was only, sharing the apartment was only for probably less than half a year. Because in the summer of 42, we were transported to the ghetto in Czech, Terezín. In German would have been Theresienstadt. This old Czech town that was converted into a ghetto.
So in ghetto in American terms is a rundown part of the community that's unsafe and you don't want to live in.
Yes.
Is it the same kind of connotation?
No. The Nazi-created ghetto was a ghetto where Jews were basically limited in their movement. So they were concentrated in a town with either a wall or a barrier of some kind, such as the Warsaw ghetto in Poland.